Hello, my name is Xavier Von Erck. This is the second supplemental video for a little retrospective I'm putting together of the years running pervertedjustice.com. Fellow olds might know it as the website that created the show To Catch a Predator on Dateline NBC. Over the decades, since the first sting on Dateline NBC, I've seen a lot of people make comments about the show, and they're usually fairly wrong. One thing I've seen debated many times is who came up with the idea. The answers usually run the gamut, with people debating whether it was Chris Hansen that came up with it, or if he was assigned to it by a Dateline NBC producer, etc. Some people will credit and or blame pervertedjustice.com for it, you name it. Whenever I would write recommendation letters for volunteers, I'd just slap in there, founder of pervertedjustice.com, creator of To Catch a Predator, to try to add some gravitas to it. Oh, this guy wasn't just some asshole that knew HTML. He came up with the format of a TV show. I better hire this person he's recommending. And there's a little slithery voice in my brain that goes, "You idiot. Just claim it was you and mean it." But while I was contacted by the reporter, talked to him ahead of the time, put him in contact with local volunteers, I can't take the credit or the blame for it either. Instead, if you distill it down to one single person, it was John Mercure, an investigative reporter for TMJ4 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Not Chris Hansen, not Lynn Keller, or Jeff Zucker, Frank Fence Post, or Frag, or Norman Lear, or me, or Taylor Sheridan, especially not fucking Taylor Sheridan. And I know it was John Mercure, because he laid it out for me on the phone directly. We hashed out what he needed. I assigned a couple local volunteers to work with him on it, specifically a chat contributor named Beef the Troll, as well as J Alternative, as he lives somewhat close geographically. Mercure emailed me in October of 2003, and we did this thing starting on October 20th, 2003 until the start of November 2003. Didn't have a ton of manpower on it, only a small handful of chat contributors. 4 people arrived at the house, and we ended up posting 11 overall. But enough of my mumbling. Let's hop into the time machine, travel back over 2 decades, so John Mercure can explain it in the first of the 2 pieces that aired way back when. Video 1 of the TMJ4 Milwaukee Wisconsin sting, November 4th, 2003.
Well, how far would you go to stop an internet sex predator?
A group of ordinary guys have taken matters into their own hands. They are posing as children and teens on the internet to try and expose possible pedophiles. Tonight, Investigation Force John Mercure takes a look at this controversial group. What they've uncovered in the Milwaukee area may shock you.
The internet, a potentially dark and dangerous playground for pedophiles. Pedophiles that are lurking in Milwaukee's dark corners, preying on our children.
It's a minefield. It is a minefield.
This is an internet vigilante we'll call Tim. Tim lives in Milwaukee, and in his free time, he logs into chat rooms around the country posing as 14-year-old Becky. And he says every night, men in their 30s and 40s aggressively and graphically pursue hooking up with Becky for sex.
They're dangerous. I think that they're the worst kind of coward, and anybody who would victimize a child to satisfy their own desires and their own ends is somebody who just, they're subhuman.
This controversial band of pervert hunters run pervertedjustice.com. The site outs online pedophiles, showing the world their names, pictures, even phone numbers, plus everything they said online.
What we try to do is to be the kitchen light that sends the cockroaches scurrying back under the countertops.
From his Milwaukee home, Tim tracks pedophiles from throughout the country, but he doesn't cover Wisconsin. To find the man who does, we had to travel here to eastern Michigan. And the man we hooked up with says the Milwaukee area is home to some very dangerous pedophiles.
I've had death threats. Other people on the site have had death threats. That was one of the sickest things I've heard in years.
On the night we sit with Greg near Detroit, he hangs out in Milwaukee chat rooms as 14-year-old Brandon. It doesn't take long for 20-year-old Alex to tell Brandon that he works security at Regency Mall near Racine and that he wants to have sex with Brandon, an 8th grader.
If this was an actual 14-year-old and they were, you know, somewhat of a troubled kid, and this guy's telling them, I've got booze, I've got this, come on over, we're going to party, and that kid's going to be there.
But these online justice seekers don't stop at the World Wide Web, and police fear they may be driving perverts further underground by calling employers, neighbors, and family with disturbing details of what happens online. Jay and Tim and an army of internet vigilantes continue prowling the dark reaches of the internet,
We'll get them.
trying to keep perverts away from our kids.
We're just a rope by which to hang themselves.
Near Detroit, Michigan, John Mercure, today's TMJ4. And I am now actually back live here in Milwaukee, where our investigation has returned. Local law enforcement not usually involved in projects done by pervertedjustice.com, and that is for two reasons. One, perverted justice staffers don't want to be held to the same standards as law enforcement, and law enforcement says they don't want to work with untrained vigilantes. So why are we here on the south side in front of this house? Well, it's the continuation of this very disturbing story. Now, I have a chat log that shows that you had a conversation this morning with who you thought was a 14-year-old boy. You know, the story does continue right at this house. That's a small preview. All I can tell you, Carol, Mike, is what you will see tomorrow, the confrontations, what we have uncovered, is the most shocking thing I've ever worked on in my 14 years in the business. And if you're a parent, it's an important story, and it's here tomorrow on 4 at 10.
John, we'll look forward to that. Thanks very much.
Very disturbing.
So that was a piece very similar to the 7 videos I uploaded in the first supplemental compilation. An overview of the site, interview with volunteers, the usual until the end when Mercure reveals the house. Jay Alternative always did a great job with these interviews when I would give him some, but the being in shadow limited the effectiveness. I never pressed him on it because we did get a fuck ton of death threats starting even in the first days of the website, so I respected anyone who chose not to put their face out there. But had he been willing to do those interviews without shadows, likely would have gave him the vast majority of news interviews to do. He was well spoken, and I liked the idea of having a gay dude out there talking shit about internet predators and pedophiles. The stereotype, then, still widespread today, is that there's some connection between homosexuality and pedophilia. There isn't any more than there is an inherent connection between heterosexuality and pedophilia. Orientations and fetishes are different animals entirely. Had Jay been able to do those interviews without shadow, not only would we have gotten even more homosexual volunteers than we ended up getting, but can you imagine the tasty, delicious hate mail? My smarmy-ass voice and general loathsome personality garnered a great amount of hate mail. I was no slouch at it, not selling myself short in this regard at all. But had it been a gay guy like Jay going on national TV to talk about the problem of internet predators, would have been absolutely showering in ridiculous, brain-broken individuals sending in death threats and hatred to my administration email address. It really would have been too damn good. Anyways, with John Mercure and TMJ4 getting the backstory first news report out of the way, the second night had the good stuff.
Last night we showed you how a group of internet vigilantes is tracking men who say they want to have sex with minors. Well, tonight our story goes one disturbing step further. Investigation 4 is there when men show up expecting to have sex with an underage teen. Our John Mercure has our exclusive investigation.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You're married. You're a basketball coach. Why is this guy we'll call Ken running away from us? Let's take a step back and show you what led to us meeting Ken. On Saturday, Ken begins emailing a Milwaukee girl who clearly identifies herself as 15-year-old Amber. Ken says he's 40. There's talk about Ken being a basketball coach and Amber's parents not being around on Monday when she says she'll be off school. Then Ken says I could take off the day and swing up there. The sexual things he says he wants to do to this high school freshman are too graphic for us to share with you. Ken and Amber agree on a time, and Ken shows up on time at the apartment we're using. He walks in thinking he's going to meet Amber. Instead, it's us. You came here looking for Amber.
Oh, no. Wait.
Yeah. You came here to have sex with a 15-year-old girl.
No way.
Yeah,
No
you were
way.
just talking to somebody online.
No. That I don't do.
No?
Sorry.
You didn't come here looking to have sex with a 15-year-old girl. You thought you were meeting Amber here. Then there's Mac, who thinks he's meeting 14-year-old Brandon. You looking for Brandon?
No.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for Brandon.
Mac says he's 37 and he lives in New York. Almost immediately, Brandon says he's only 14. The two talk about sex and beer and how Brandon's parents won't be home. Then the man makes plans to pick up the boy. Mac shows up in the car he's described to us, but finds a TV reporter instead of a teenager. Who are you looking for?
Nobody.
What do you got in the bag there?
Nothing.
Someone at one of our, someone talked to you online, and you said you were showing up to have sex with a 14-year-old boy.
No.
And that's how it went. At least 10 men over 3 days. Some would slowly drive by our apartment. Others would pull in the driveway. 4 came to the door, and all 4 had an excuse when they saw the camera. Well, why'd you show up at all? Her mom's not here. You're twice her age, and her mom's not here. And you showed up here.
Yes, like I said, I honestly told you I showed up, but I showed up to tell her that I want no part of this. I wanted to personally tell her.
Local law enforcement has mixed feelings about busting would-be pedophiles online and then confronting them in person. They say they agree with taking measures to protect our children, but they say they worry about non-professionals getting involved in potentially dangerous situations.
Let law enforcement handle the law enforcement matters. Again, we can understand why they're doing this, but again, our jobs and our missions are completely different.
The internet vigilantes we worked with say until law enforcement can dedicate more resources to tracking potential pedophiles, roll down the window and talk to us. They'll continue working the dark corners of the internet on their own. And we do need to reaffirm that none of these men have been charged, and that's one of the reasons that in the piece we used fictional names instead of real names, and we do plan to turn over all of our information, our documents, and some other things to local law enforcement.
Yep, John Mercure even had them walk into the apartment. So yeah, what we did with Dateline wasn't a Dateline invention. We had already been doing it across the nation. Where do you think they got the idea from, huh? But hey, enough about that. Well, it'll be a more appropriate thing to talk about in a different video. Back to this sting. As mentioned earlier, we had a small handful of people working this sting, and we needed 4 guys to the house. The first guy to show up went by the handle Tom Z Cat on Yahoo. He was a 41-year-old volunteer coach for elementary school kids in a couple different sports. He wrote an incredibly shitty writer reply, like, come on man, why even send that in? His wife, family, employer, and neighbors were all called and informed about his appearance on the news and his chat. Wife went through denial, then sadness, then anger, per usual. He tried going down the I'm going to counseling route for us to verify, but then decided antagonizing us by threatening a lawsuit was a good idea. Of course, that never materialized. Oh, no way. What an accent. Poor Wisconsin folks. Next up on the video is NYC Visitor 66. He's a J alternative bus. Shows up to meet a 14-year-old boy. The chat on this one is ridiculously short, but it didn't need to be long. Everything you need for a chat is in it. If you look it up on the Wayback Archive, it's almost comically short, but all the elements are there. And this is where our tale gets a bit interesting. Tangent rant warning. Old NYC Visitor here was actually from New York City. His job was as a producer for ABC National News. He produced a lot of the 2004 election coverage that ABC National News did. Wait, you might be asking, wasn't this Milwaukee's thing in November 2003? Why, yes it was. You're so smart. This guy kept his job for the next year, despite our best efforts. We hit up every level of ABC News that we could. So it's not like they didn't know about it. In fact, they certainly did know about it, because a couple of their other producers would reply to the emails of volunteers and, myself with unkind responses. He ended up leaving ABC News in November of 2004. Another producer did not leave ABC News. A producer there named Travis Houdon was quite aggressive in replying to people who emailed him. Here are some examples. Yeah, he's still listed as an active producer there today. ABC News would continually attack our work over the years. People familiar with To Catch a Predator likely remember the various attacks ABC News had against the show, which is part and parcel of how competing news networks treat each other. What's more interesting, though, is that their attacks actually started way earlier than the height of the To Catch a Predator years. Their first big attack piece on our work was developed and posted in November of 2004. Yeah, the same month that was the last time NYC Visitors 66 worked there. It's still online to this day. The piece ends with, in addition to publishing its target's names on the website, Perverted Justice publicizes its activity with what it calls group media busts. In these busts, the site team teams up with a local television station and lures chatters to a house with what the site volunteers say is a promise of an underage sexual encounter. When and if the target arrives, he's met by a reporter with a television camera and soon finds his face on the evening news. Nowhere in the quite negative piece about us does it mention that a news producer, still working at ABC News at the time, was caught on camera visiting one of our media sting operations. Not a single word about our inundating ABC News with contact in 2003 and early 2004 about a producer there showing up to a sting operation. No emails posted of their producers trying to shit on site readers for alerting them to a news producer there showing up at a sting operation. Nary a single mention. Maybe it just slipped their minds, eh? If anyone actually watches these and follows along as I document early media and transition into breaking down the entire odyssey that was the website, please do try to remember this example whenever I go on and on about the idiocy of journalists and the idea of journalistic ethics. For obvious reasons, when the wing of ABC News that produced Prime Time Live emailed me asking to do a media sting with us in spring of 2004, they got a very curt response. Now back to Milwaukee. The third guy profiled was under the Yahoo handle THAP1977. Frag covers the interaction well at the time. His post is on screen now. Yeah, the whole stand there and talk until they make you leave was also something that happened at our very first media sting. We never figured out this fellow's last name. Lucky him. We had his phone number, but this was an era of absolutely no money and no fun things like Intellius lookups. Much of our follow-up efforts were directed at the first two featured fellows due to their professions, so old THAP 1977 slipped through the cracks. We would go on to work with Mercure 3 additional times. We came back in February 2004 for a sting with him, then did another in May 2005 that led to 3 convictions, and then in 2006 we did our final one there that netted 5 arrests. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of those news reports, but I'm glad to have the footage of the very first one we did, that's for sure. And I think it upscaled pretty nicely too. John Mercure still works in Milwaukee with WTMJ. He was a great guy, one of the very best reporters we worked with, an honest, earnest fellow, and a credit to a very slimy profession overall. So that was the news segment that would get the ball rolling, and roll on it did. This piece was shared among local news stations nationally, and we got a ton of contact about setting up more stings basically instantly. Next up on my third supplemental video, we'll be visiting Kansas City. Yeehaw! For some barbecue. 30 minutes of predators running for their lives. And a whole lot of controversy. It'll be 17 bad hombres, some important federal case precedent for us, and a door-to-door Bible guide just going door to door, hawking the word of the Lord. If you're a real big-time bored weirdo, what follows is a 25-minute radio interview with volunteer Beef the Troll from Milwaukee, talking in 2005 on a radio show about one of our stings in Milwaukee. The fun part is the radio host going into a chat room to see for herself how fast she gets hit up as a 13-year-old decoy, and being shocked by it. Oh, here we go! Until then, I'm Xavier Von Erck. Thanks for watching.
All right, I need to introduce my next guest, and this is going to sound really weird. I don't know if some of you have a chance to watch TMJ4 out of Milwaukee. They did an excellent series on stalkers in chat rooms, pedophiles in chat rooms, essentially stalking your kids while they're chatting online with their friends. An organization out there that runs a website called Perverted Justice. Actually, Perverted Justice means trying to find justice for you if your kids have been targeted by perverts. They helped out in this, and I have got somebody on from the website now. We're going to use your screen name. All right, because we don't want to. You're one of these guys that needs to be anonymous. So I do appreciate you coming on the show, and people are going to think your screen name's weird. It is Beef the Troll. Nice to have you on the program. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me, Becky. It's nice to be here.
Here's let's start out with what they did and what kind of success they had in Milwaukee with your assistance. They essentially set up a video sting where you helped them set up a chat room situation and an address, and they managed to trap people going to find 14, 15-year-old girls. They got them on videotape. What exactly? How is it that was set up in Milwaukee?
Yeah, essentially, you've got it pretty well correct. Actually, Perverted Justice's relationship with Channel 4 and their head investigative reporter, John Mercure, started a couple of years ago. John had this idea that what he wanted to do was to rent a home, and he was aware of our website, just having surfed there, and what he came up with turned out to be a really great idea. Have all the contributors for pervertedjustice.com, people who go into local internet chat rooms and pose as young teens. There's about 30 of us all over the country, give or take, at any given moment, and we would go into local chat rooms, which are notorious internet hookup joints for people looking for other people in their area to meet, and we would go in there and pose as 13-year-old kids, 14-year-old kids, which is something we've been doing for quite a while, independent of the television station, and we would all work the area, and however many people hit on our kids for sex, we would get as many of them as we could to meet at the house that the station had rented, and instead of finding a 13-year-old kid there who wanted to have sex with them, they would find a television reporter and a camera.
What a satisfaction that had to be.
Well, the problem of pedophiles on the internet is a pretty big one, and the site actually has been combating that for quite a few years now. I've been part of the site for just around 2 years. And it's something we've been doing for a while. We have adult volunteers who are content contributors, that is their title, and they pose as kids online. And when they get information from these guys, they'll often send photos, they send phone numbers, they send, we have a disgusting chat log that we have with them. And when we're finished with them, we put all their information online, and it's kind of like a public stocks with the word pedophile written on it. These guys may not be straight-up pedophiles, but what they are is they're in these chat rooms looking actively to victimize kids for their own desires and their own ends.
And you do this locally, whoever helps you out. You also assist the police departments as well. This is not just this is not an online vigilante group.
Well, the way it started out was we wanted to just be a public humiliation resource to kind of be a deterrent for these people who would do these kind of things, and also to be a resource for parents to educate themselves about the dangers of their kids. But as the site has grown in reputation and as it's become obvious that what we do is real, what we do is a real problem, and that we gather real evidence that's able to be used to facilitate arrests and also convictions, our relationship with local, federal, and state law enforcement has really grown, and now we're on a track towards turning the website into more or less a conviction factory. We've actually gotten, based on the work that we've done, initialized by us, we've gotten 12 arrests in 12 states in the last, 12 convictions in 12 states in the last 10 months. There's lots of arrests, lots of cases pending, But just based on the work we've done, we've managed to put some of these guys away where they can't get the kids
Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. How common is it, do you think, for a child, let's say an unmonitored child, teen child in a chat room to be hit on by somebody? Is it reasonably common? Is it something? We're going to try a little experiment after this first break here, just to see if, in fact, somebody will hit on me. I've set up a screen name. But is it reasonably common, or is it something that, it's out there, but, maybe you don't have to worry too much about it if your kid's got his or her head about him?
It's actually a ridiculously common problem. I remember hearing a statistic that was actually about 5 years old now from the Centers for Missing and Exploited Children, and they said that 3 out of 5 children has been sexually solicited online, and recently they bumped that number up to be 85%. So, I mean, it's obviously a really, really clear problem. You're telling me 85% of kids that are missing right now were sexually solicited online? That is the current statistic according to the Centers for Missing and Exploited Children. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. That is an enormous statistic.
It's ridiculous, and it's only getting worse. It's grown, like I said, from being about 3 out of 5 to about 85% just in the last few years. Well, what do parents get to do about a problem like this? Is there software they can install? I mean, kids are going to find a way to chat. Kids love to chat. Sure, yeah. There's software you can install. I mean, the most important thing any parent can do is just be involved in with their kids. Just be a part of their lives and know who they're talking to. I would say get the computers out of a private room. Oh, yeah. Wouldn't you think? That's the most important thing. Any parent who has a computer in a room with a closed door, be it a bedroom or a den or something, that's like putting a huge neon sign over the door saying, "Welcome pedophiles, please molest my kid." Oh, my, yeah, no kidding, because they can shut the door, and it's so easy for them to, just close out a window if they don't want mom and dad to find out. And mom and dad typically aren't nearly as internet savvy and computer savvy as their kids are nowadays. Right. The technological naivete of parents combined with the social naivete of kids combines to create this big problem. Yeah, the most important thing any parent can do is keep that computer in a common area and check up on your kid's internet activity every moment of every day. Yeah, get it out of a closed room. That's first and foremost, and then, that's probably going to do you more good than software, but software is probably a good thing to consider as well. Okay, Beef, hang on a second, all right? We got to take a quick commercial break here, and you're going to help me out, try to set something up here online. Perverted Justice, perverted-justice.com is the website if you'd like to check it out. And go to the forums page. A lot of great stuff on the forums page there. This is, purely altruistic effort by these folks, and they're doing some good. We'll be back. This is Up Front. Perverted-justice.com. Now, it sounds like a strange website to talk about, but actually it's a group of folks out there who try to trap people in the chat rooms who are out looking for your kids. And I'm actually in a chat room right now. I'm Madison, you. All right, I got like 6 people IMing me right now. And I've got Beef on. Beef, what do you want me to do here? I'm trying to see if... Oh, here's one. 16M Milwaukee. You have a pic or a cam. I don't want to deal with the 16-year-olds. Help me out. What do you think I should do next? I've got like 5 people IMing me. Well, so far, what you're doing is exactly what Perverted Justice contributors and volunteers do. We create profiles that appear to be underage kids, just saying that we're 13, having an appropriate, age-appropriate name, maybe a school photograph, and we just head into these chat rooms and we lie in wait. And people chat us up for sex. A lot of the time it starts off innocuously at first, but over time, if somebody's going to chart their boat into those waters, then we're more than happy to give themselves enough rope to hang themselves with. Yeah, I tell you, it doesn't take long to get hit up with a, oh, wait a minute, here's, I'm too old for you. I put a little frowny face. Do you have a cam? No cam, just pick on profile. There you go. How about that? No cam, just pick on profile. 17 Milwaukee, any picks? 17-year-old shouldn't be wanting a 13-year-old girl. Well, see, sometimes you get people that are in your age group that do, they're looking for people that are school age or whatever, but we tend not to focus on those. We're looking more for people that are, over the legal age, looking for people that are under the legal age. Right. Let's see. I got the what's up. I got so many going at once. Should I just pick one, or what do you think I should do here? I tell you what, your kids get hit right away. Yes, they do. Now, whether they're, other teenagers, which I think is probably pretty fine. What are teenagers doing in a chat room where there's a lot of crude stuff going on? But at the same time, you don't want to discourage teens from talking to teens. True. Well, you're cute, but you're too young. A lot of them start off that way. You'd be surprised how many actual files we get that start off with, well, you're too young, but they press on. They say, well, maybe we should just talk a little bit, and within, 10 or 20 minutes, they're asking what their sexual experience is, what their bra size is, whether or not they shave themselves. It's pretty foul.
Oh my God! Yeah, this. It actually really is. They really come at you really fast. I mean, I don't know how you can possibly keep up with some of this stuff.
You can't. It's like whack-a-mole. Usually they pop up faster than you can close them. But if you can get one or two people that seem to have a pretty clear intent of hunting you down to try and hook up with you offline, then that's the kind of sort of thing we look for.
Well, this is actually pretty amazing. In fact, if I'm a parent, I'm thinking I don't mind my kid, I suppose, talking to other teenagers, but we're talking, I got 6 or 7 instant messages here right now.
Right.
One guy's too old for me, but he's still talking to me. Why is he still talking to me? Tells me I'm cute. Oh, here we go.
If you go to the site and read any of the logs, so many of them start off that way.
We just got a hit.
Well, pick out that one then, and
I'm going with this one.
Close the rest of the windows and focus on that guy. If he's saying he's too old for you and yet you're cute, probably a third of the files.
He just propositioned me pretty. Folks, how long did that take? 90 seconds? 2 minutes?
Not even that. How long has it been since the break? 2 minutes? 3 minutes?
2 minutes. I just got openly propositioned with some very vile language.
That's pretty well par for the course. That's the kind of that's de rigueur for what we do.
Folks, that took 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes before a third. And I said, I'm a female in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm 13 years old, and I just got openly propositioned.
You set foot in the room, and a plethora of messages just pop right up, and they're shameless. They're completely brazen, and they just go right for it.
Here,
and this is the kind of thing. The site is 50-50, a deterrent for other people who are trying to pick up kids online for sex, and also the other 50% is an education resource for parents to let them know this is the kind of thing that your kids do face.
This is somewhat disturbing, and I know this stuff happens, but once it happens, here we thought I was thinking, what? How long is it going to take? It might not even happen while we're talking on the show. It literally took less than a couple of minutes, and I tell you what, this stuff's not innocuous. And if you're in this room at all, by the way, you just go to a general chat room, and you can click on, wherever you are, your location, by state, by city, whatever. It's just in the people generally chatting in the open chat right here. It's pretty crude. It's pretty adult, and I don't know why the kids are even allowed in there.
It's shocking and it's disturbing, and Vicki, it happens every damn day. There's not a day that one of us don't go out that this sort of thing doesn't happen. They're completely shameless. They just come right at us.
Here's a guy who's propositioned me, and he's asked me if I've ever, and I'm going to use clean language here, and he knows I'm 13 or pretending to be 13. If I ever had sex before, what's a good answer to this if this happens?
Whatever you feel.
I'm just going to put sort of. How about that?
Yeah, as preferred to justice contributors, we portray a wide myriad of different types. Some kids that are completely naive of the concept of sex. Some kids that might have had some sexual experience, because that's reality. We're trying to get these people to convince them that we are these kids, so that they have no qualms about following whatever natural impulses they have.
You hold on. I gotta. In the 5 o'clock hour as well, don't forget Brewers baseball coming your way at 5:30, and I'm going to actually save this instant messaging conversation I'm having with the man who knows that I'm 13 years old, a legal adult, and he has propositioned me in all kinds of dirty ways right now. We'll talk a little bit more about your children online. This is Up Front.
Previously on Up Front.
John had this idea that what he wanted to do was to rent a home, and he was aware of our website, just having surfed there, and what he came up with turned out to be a really great idea. Have all the contributors for pervertedjustice.com, people who go into local internet chat rooms and pose as young teens. There's about 30 of us all over the country, give or take, on a given moment, and we would go into local chat rooms, which are notorious internet hookup joints for people looking for other people in their area to meet, and we would go in there and pose as 13-year-old kids, 14-year-old kids, which is something we've been doing for quite a while, independent of the television station, and we would all work the area, and however many people hit on our kids for sex, we would get as many of them as we could to meet at the house that the station had rented, and instead of finding a 13-year-old kid there who wanted to have sex with them, they would find a television reporter and a camera.
Welcome to Up Front with Vicki McKenna, the voice of reason in a city of chaos. To be a part of the program, call 321-1310 or toll free at 1-877-235-1310 or email Vicki McKenna at clearchannel.com. Now here's your host, Vicki McKenna. McKenna on News Talk 1310 WIBA.
321-1310 or toll free 877-235-1310. We are streaming audio as well on the internet at WIBA.com. We're talking to the folks from Perverted Justice. It's perverted-justice.com. Don't forget the dash, or it's probably going to take you somewhere else. And we're talking about the threat to kids online who are just innocently sitting in a chat room. I was going to read the instant message exchange that I had with this man who propositioned me, but even if I clean it up, Beef, I can't. I actually don't know if I can make it airable because the concept itself is pretty dramatic. But let's just say to the folks out there, I was flagrantly propositioned with some very crude language. And then I was flagrantly propositioned again to do something. Let's just say that something that Bill Clinton was a fan of. How about that? I think folks will get that.
I wish I could say that was uncommon. I wish I could say that wasn't something we saw every day. But the anonymity, or the supposed anonymity of the Internet, this glass shield in between you and the real world, is what provides these guys with the boldness. The Internet is our new playground. Used to be years ago, if you wanted to snatch up a kid, you had to put on a raincoat, get a van, head down to the playground. And now you don't have to do that anymore. People have this image of the child molester or the would-be child molester as a guy with the raincoat on, hair slicked back, hanging around playgrounds, ducking cops and teachers. But really, this is the new place they go to look for kids, to work them for weeks on end, that earn their trust, and that's what they do.
Now, when you did the Milwaukee report, you actually got about 15 people to agree to meet, and all the people actually at least drove by the location. But yes. Now that isn't what I wasn't going that far on this chat. But I mean, I'll just tell you what. In 120 seconds, I had a guy who knew I was 13, knew I was underage, and was prepared to proposition me. Now, whether he was prepared to go and meet, I don't know. I didn't let it go that far, but if somebody will begin the conversation with a girl that they believe is underage, certainly you've got to think that they might be willing to take it a step further as well.
Yes,
that's the concern.
One thing, that's one thing that you will find, the one common thread amongst all of the almost 700 files that are posted on our site. The only thing they all have in common, they come from all walks of life. There are teachers, there are federal employees, there are cops, there are social workers. The only thing they all have in common, or they would not be posted, and that's important, is that all of them expressed an interest to meet what they thought was a child offline for sex. If you get somebody who's just chatting you up, just wants to maybe, do something salacious while they're talking to you, or just be disgusting or talk disgusting, that's one thing. That's bad enough. But every single one of those files is somebody who expressed an interest in meeting what they thought was a kid offline.
Here's the thing. If you had actually put files probably for everybody who wanted to talk dirty to a kid,
you'd run out of website.
Yeah, you'd run out of server space. Let me get to Bill here, who has a question for you. And let me explain, folks, we're not using, I'm calling him Beef, because that's his nickname. That's part of his online handle. He actually works with police officers, so he does prefer we don't use his name on the air, and we got to respect that. So for those of you who are wondering, why are you calling the guy Beef? And are you calling the guy Beef? Yeah, I really am. Bill, you're on with Beef the Troll, which is his internet name, from Perverted Justice.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, Vicki.
Hey, Bill.
I think you do a great job.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, my point is, I taught my daughter how to handle this a year ago. She was 14. She went to a chat room, and she came up with all the, I can't say everything they say. You understand that?
Oh, absolutely.
And she called me over to the computer, and I looked, and I watched, and I said, let me sit there. And I sat down, and I was her from then on. And I typed them messages, do you like sex? Oh, not with a peanut. Go home and cry to your mama. I'm too hot for you. And these boys would quit. I don't know if the older men will, but they would quit. They would go away because they can't handle the humiliation.
Well, now hold on a second though. Most kids can't do that, and most kids don't have a dad to slide on in there and come up with it with trying to over egotize some of these people. I think the biggest concern.
Dads should.
Well, yeah, but you can't
monitor your child.
It's best if you can be there 100% of the time. The problem is you can't be there 100% of the time. But one of the ways you can do it, and Beef, I think we need to reiterate this, take it out of a private room.
Yes.
Take the computer out of a private room and put it in an area where everybody can see it. I think Bill was great, that he taught his kid, and his kid was willing to go tap Dad on the shoulder and say, Dad, look what I found.
Yes, that's fantastic. I mean, Bill has done something that not a lot of parents will do. He got involved, and that's fantastic. He's watching to make sure that his child is safe online. But
and he had a kid, too, but he also had a kid who trusted him enough to let him know something was wrong.
Yes, when you're talking about a child who maybe comes from a broken home, has one parent who has to work to support the family and isn't around a lot, maybe they don't have a whole lot of friends at school, these people will find those holes in their armor. They'll find these weaknesses, and they'll exploit them. Well, you don't have a lot of friends, well, I'll be your friend. Nobody tells you you're pretty. I think you're beautiful. And these are the things they say. Bill has helped his daughter circumvent that by being involved, being educated, and being aware of what she's doing online, but a lot of kids don't have that.
And you know, it's not even kids who are necessarily. I mean, you're talking about teenagers whose esteem could be shattered by somebody telling them they're ugly or they've got a zit on their face. So you're not even necessarily having to focus on kids who have significant problems at home.
Right.
I mean,
show me a teenager who has a good level of self-esteem. And, I'll show you the moon. I mean, this is nothing that all kids, I mean, we all remember growing up in that awkward phase, through high school and whatever. We all over-scrutinized ourselves and thought there were problems with us. And everybody, there's not really, I'm not saying it's impossible for it to happen, but you just don't find too many really self-assured, self-actualized teenagers who don't have some kind of an issue with their own self-esteem.
And I'm hoping there are more teenagers out there like Bill's daughter who would think that they could trust Dad enough to let him know that this kind of stuff was going on. But let's face it, that might even embarrass some kids, and they might think they're going to get themselves in trouble. Let me ask this, though. If a parent, because a lot of kids are way more computer savvy than their parents, is there something a parent can do to sort of monitor what's happening? Let's say they have the computer in the family room, but, the kid's going to get home from school at 3:15, and Mom and Dad don't show up till, say, 4:30, and they're 15 years old. They can monitor themselves for a couple hours. How do you check when you're not there?
The most important thing that you need to do, the most important thing you can look for to monitor your kids online is really simple. It's already built into the software. If you go to the history button, which is on the top of any of the major web browsers, Firefox, Internet Explorer, if you click the history button, it will let you know every place that particular web browser has been. And if you've seen your kid online and you go to that history button and it's cleared out, then you know that child has gone in there and cleared out that history because they don't want you knowing where they are.
Good point.
If you go in there and you find out that there's places like chat rooms or websites you'd rather they not go to, then they've been doing things they shouldn't, and you can have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah, you say, here's the rule, honey, don't clear the history. Because it is pretty easy to see if that history's been cleared.
Right, and if your kids are chatting online using any of the different internet messaging clients, like Yahoo Instant Messenger or AOL Instant Messenger, I don't know so much about AOL because I don't use that too much. Some of the people that work for the website do, but I don't personally. But there's an archive feature on Yahoo Internet Messenger that you can actually turn on in the options menu, and that will keep a log of every single message that comes in or out of that piece program that is being used by that screen name. So if your kids, if you set up the account, make sure you know what the password is, make sure you can go in and check on that. I mean, a lot of kids will look at that as being a real invasion of privacy, and, oh, my God, Mom, I can't believe you're getting up on my stuff like this. But really, it's one of the most important things you can do to keep your kids safe is just to make sure that you're keeping tabs on them.
Well, you say this, kind of like Mom used to do back when internet, and computers were not even an option, but she'd pick up the phone every now and again, and she'd listen, and she'd hear something, and then my mom would do this. She'd hear something she didn't like, and she'd start hollering on one other line of the phone.
Sure.
You tell your child, we're going to archive this stuff. It's for your own good. Of course they're going to hate you for it. But you know what? If it keeps them out of the chat rooms, if that's what it does, so be it. If it makes them more responsible, so be it.
Those are the things you can do. Of course, it's not a foolproof method. There's ways around everything. Kids can delete history. Kids can delete their archives.
But at least they did it. So then it's time to sit down and maybe have a discussion and maybe see if you can get some communication going too.
There's also great programs out there like Content Protect and Net Nanny, things that you can buy that will lock your kids out of websites that are rated mature, websites that have inappropriate content. There's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of technical solutions, but the most important thing anybody can do is just to be involved with the kids, be involved in their lives, ask them questions, know what they're up to, be a concerned parent, let them know that you're concerned, and let them know that you're keeping an eye on them for their own safety.
Yeah, good point. Let me get to Todd here before we run out of time. Todd, you're on with Perverted Justice. What's your question or comment?
Hello. Yeah, I work in the technology industry, and I've made quite a bit of money on the side, especially with AOL accounts, setting them up for parents. AOL has what's called a file cabinet. You can password protect it for each account. So your kid can't get in there. You can set the file cabinet to store everything they do.
I bet the kid could figure out how to kind of divine his or her way through that, though. But, what if you've got a completely untech-savvy parent? Is that something, do they have to make a phone call to you to do that? Because that sounds like a good idea.
Well, I've done it on the side for friends, family, and it just kind of ballooned out when parents talk to parents.
It's a good idea.
Probably set up 150 of them.
Why don't you email me some information on that, Todd?
Sure.
Can you shoot me an email on that, and then and I appreciate it. Then we'll see if we can maybe pass that along to the listeners there, because I think they'd like that information. I want to get to as many phone calls as I can because we're going to run out of time real soon. Dan, you're on with Perverted Justice. Beef the Troll is his screen name.
Yep.
Hi, Dan.
How you doing? Just wanted to make a mention that there are other methods as far as monitoring the child as far as what they're doing online. Basically, there is a software program and also a hardware device called a keylogger, which allows you to monitor everything that's typed. Every activity, every keystroke on the keyboard is logged and monitored, and you can also get it in software format to where it's so the user is not even aware that it's being done. I know it's kind of a little underhanded, but there is other methods for you to constantly monitor them.
We're talking about making sure kids don't get hit on by pedophiles, though, so underhanded, that's relative.
When it comes to your kids' safety, underhanded is really the lesser of two evils as far as I'm concerned.
You can get a keylogger. Actually, I've seen those for sale as well. Probably not as common as some of the software tracking programs, and there certainly are things you can already do right now. But let's direct people to the website because there's a lot of good information on your website for parents who we didn't cover even as much as we could have. Perverted-justice.com. There's forums there where you can discuss with other parents your concerns. Lots of good information just on the website itself, and you guys are doing good work. Thank you so much. I think you're doing a marvelous job. I hope the police appreciate you as much as I do.
Well, we've recently really stepped up our level of police work, and that's been reflected in the amount of arrests and convictions we've got. Our contributors do testify in court, and that's reflected in the fact that in the last 10 months we've gotten 12 convictions in 12 different states. And
all right, I got to run. I'm on a hard break here, Beef. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Folks, we're going to be right back. This is Up Front.
want to par, just wanted to have a big quaff. Do you ever tell me I'm more? Now I gotta take off. I wasn't gonna do a thing. Fuck my sunglasses and fuck my life. I man, I wasn't doing anything. Now I need to call my wife. So tall, so dreamy, so dark, so dead. She said she was 13, was so sure, but it's okay, I was just curious. Oh man, it was all such a blur. My wife's gonna be furious. I'm in big trouble, don't bring the girls. Need $30,000. Didn't do nothing, but did something stupid. Didn't do nothing, but did something stupid. So tall, so dreamy, so dark, so dead. Spending all my money, got a famous fancy attorney. Whole internet is laughing at me, but I'll win. They'll see, they'll say 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I don't care. I'll stretch this thing out, the plot will thicken. The way the 13-year-old talked to me, so unfair. I'll beat these charges, she called me a chicken. So tall, so dreaming, so dark, so dead. Oh, fuck my fancy celebrity lawyer failed. Chat logs admitted, time to plead. An RSO